Good afternoon. Welcome to the meeting of the Hingham Municipal Light Plant Board, February 11th, 2025. This meeting is being held remotely as an alternate means of public access pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023 and all other applicable laws temporarily amending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You're hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during this meeting may be recorded by the town of Hingham in accordance with the open meeting law. If any participant wishes to record this meeting, please notify the chair at the start of the meeting in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, so that the chair may inform all other participants of this recording. Excuse me, is there anybody else who would like to record the meeting while we're here? Okay, seeing none. I'm going to just mention about the agenda for a minute. Item 8 on the agenda is other new unforeseen business, and which we do not usually have any items here because items need to be come up after the deadline for posting the agenda to be in this category, but we do have something like that today. The board was asked by Energy New England if we would support or write a letter in support of the granting of the water quality permit for First Light Power in Turner's Falls. And Mike informs me that we need to have a discussion about that, and we need to do it now because the comment period closes on February 24th, and we won't be having a meeting before then. So you put that into the agenda down there. And then just so everybody knows, after that item, the board will be voting to enter executive session, not to return to public session. So that's our end of our agenda today. Our first item on the agenda, I want to welcome Zoe and Tom, who are from Next Zero, which is the business that helps us run our demand response program. And we had asked them to come and tell us a little bit about how they court manufacturers to join their program and what the progress is in that area. And it'll also be a great opportunity to get any other questions answered that people may have. So I'll just turn it over to you, Zoe and Tom.
All right, thank you, Laura. So my name is Zoe Eckert. I'm the Sustainable Energy Program and Policy Senior Manager at MWEC, which is the state-designated not-for-profit joint action agency for municipal utilities. As Laura introed, I oversee the running of our Next Zero programs, which are the energy efficiency, sustainability, and demand response programs under the Next Zero branding. I'm going to share my screen here. We were asked to go over just some questions that come up, including manufacturer availability in connected homes, which is the demand response program that we run on behalf of Hingham Municipal Light Plant. The questions we were asked to go over today are around OEM integrations, customer applications in that process, customer data collection, and then the transmission and capacity cost avoidance that we calculate for the program. Of course, if there are questions outside of this scope, just let us know and we'll do our best to answer on the spot, or we'll get the data for you that you're asking about after the meeting. I'll start with a couple of questions, and I'm also joined by Tommy Hargrave, who is the Demand Response Programs Coordinator here. He manages the day-to-day operations of your application and your connected homes implementation. So he'll go over the last two questions that we'll be going through. So in terms of OEM integrations, we work with a third-party software company, which is a distributed energy resource partner called Virtual Peaker. So we work with Virtual Peaker, who have the software capabilities of doing API integrations with manufacturer devices. So effectively, we're working with a bunch of different companies. The list on the screen are the current OEM integrations. So OEM is the manufacturer types integrations that we have available within connected homes. You'll see on the left-hand column the connected homes eligible brands. You'll also see on the right-hand column, we do have a number of electric vehicle brands that are in beta testing right now. So they should be available within Q2 is what we're being told, to have those in the program as well. Some things we have coming up in Q2, we will be seeing an integration with Stepwise, which is effectively it's a device that goes on the inverter level or service panel level of the home and redirects energy usage. So that will be an integration that's available in Q2. I'll send more information about the technology and what it does once we have that integration more finalized. Franklin whole home batteries in Q2 as well as Tesla Powerwall batteries. That should be done by the end of Q1, but that will absolutely be done by Q2. GM is an integration that Virtual Peaker is working on. That's definitely a more long-term conversation. So I think within this year, but no really set deadlines on when that integration will be going through. And then, as I mentioned, a number of EV brands are in beta testing and should be coming through within the next couple of months. The final list I have to go over here. So there are other available OEM integrations that Virtual Peaker already has the API done with. So at any given time, if there's an integration that an MLP is interested in pursuing, that they want as part of Connected Homes, we go with it to the manufacturer, see if there's any startup costs to getting them into Connected Homes, and then all of the MLPs that participate in Connected Homes vote to put it in the program. If they vote to put that device type in the program, the cost is shared among all Connected Homes and participating MLPs, of which right now there are 17. And if they vote not to, obviously the MLP who initiated that conversation and wants that integration can choose to incur the full cost of that integration and still have that uploaded into their program. So there's, the voting structure doesn't prohibit you from anything. It's just a cost sharing mechanism.
Could you say
something additionally?
Could you say just a little bit about what the cost is of integrating something into the program?
It's completely up to the manufacturer, and it's completely different based on each manufacturer. So the list I have on the screen right now are the available OEM integrations. I can certainly share. I cannot do it outside of executive session just because, those are strategy information for Virtual Peaker, but I can share offline what those costs are for you. It varies widely. So there's really not, some are $10,000, some are $1,000, some don't have a cost. So it varies widely. That being said, if there are any brands that are not currently on this list, it means that they need to set up the API integration with Virtual Peaker so that Virtual Peaker software systems can reach that manufacturer's software systems. If there's ever a manufacturer type that anyone in Hingham or on this board is interested in having Virtual Peaker pursue, you just let us know and then we'll initiate conversations with that manufacturer type. That I'll pause now and ask if there are manufacturer types that have come up for anyone on the board or at the light department that you're not seeing yet and you're interested in pursuing.
I am not aware of any. Just look down. Brianna would be the person most likely to have heard about someone who's looking for an integration that we don't have. But if
I know people in town who have Ecobee thermostats.
Ecobee. Get that back here. Tommy, you'll have to refresh my brain. We are having conversations with Virtual Peaker about Ecobee, so that's likely an integration that's in kind of in the API stage right now. But I can nail down where Virtual Peaker is with Ecobee and get Brianna that update.
Yeah, the biggest ones we get are definitely the Ecobee thermostats, and then it's for Fords and Rivians are the two big brands that aren't yet in the program that we do have still on our list of customers that can't join.
Yeah, I know Ford. Ford has across the board as a company. They were actually in the Connected Homes program in Q3, Q4 of 2024. Ford as a company decided to pull out nationally of all demand response programs that they were part of. I hear from people I know who know people that work in the industry that Ford's intent is that they want to have their own demand response program. I've also heard anecdotally that this is something Ford does often and it doesn't usually follow through. So there's a high potential that we could probably see them rejoining the program in the future when this kind of business strategy pans out to the end. But I can, I'll keep an ear to that. But yes, Ford is obviously a big one in the market. Rivian, I don't know the answer to that one. Often newer companies don't have that API, and Rivian is, quote unquote, newer in the EV market or in the automotive market. Just don't have the API integration set up. But let me check with Virtual Peaker what conversations they've had with Rivian.
And I also would ask on your mini split controllers. You have Sensibo and one other, I think. But yeah, let's see what they are exactly. Ream, no, it's Flare and Sensibo. And are those apps that talk to mini splits, or are they hardware? For example, we have so Mitsubishi heat pumps have an app that you can control them with, and is that how you would talk to a Mitsubishi mini split controller if you were going to do that through that app, or is it hardware?
It's both. It's very similar to a Wi-Fi thermostat. So it's a little device that connects to the mini split, and then that reads the app, and the device controls the mini split. So very, very similar to a Wi-Fi controller. They're virtually the same thing.
Okay, I have more questions, so I think I can pursue that offline though. Thanks.
So I will check in with Virtual Peaker on updates on the ecobee integration. I'll talk to them about it, how they've any success they've had with talking to Rivian, and I will send the OEM integration costs that we have to Brianna so that she can share offline with the board. Any other questions I can answer around manufacturer integrations? Susan, I see your hand up.
Thank you. Susan Wetzel, 239 High Street. I had a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. The question I had, you've referred several times to API. Could you just, for us people that are not quite as techie, what does the API mean?
Yes. So API is going to be very similar to HTML. It's just a coding language. So it's the coding language that both the manufacturer and Virtual Peaker have to set up so that the different devices or the different software systems can talk to each other.
Oh, that's like a middleware.
It's like a middleware. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So for each individual, for each individual OEM partner, then somebody would be writing that software for the middleware between that and the device type. Is that technically how that works?
That's correct. Yeah, and it is a pretty substantial integration to make for a manufacturer. So that's why sometimes a manufacturer will choose to pass those costs on to us to get that done.
As opposed to something like a Wi-Fi, which is more general usage, correct?
The API integration does use Wi-Fi, but I think I understand your question. Yes, it's not general usage. This is a direct connection between Virtual Peaker and the manufacturer.
So if there was a problem with each individual, because you're saying to me that each individual piece of software would be a little different, that's why it would work with that particular device, correct? So if something changed in that particular software, then you'd have to make a change every single time for every single OEM partner. Is that correct?
If the manufacturer, so we'll use General Motors for an example. Say we have an API integration with General Motors. If General Motors change something with their software on a very large level, this isn't, you know, little minute things. This is like the software language they're using, then they would have to update that with virtual peaker. I've only seen that happen with one manufacturer in the time that I've been running this program. It's not common that API integrations get changed unless something really big happens with the company, which is what tends to drive that.
Are these big companies or are they little companies, the OEM part?
They tend to be larger. I for OEM to be able to interested in doing an AI integration, they have to kind of be at scale on the number of devices that they're able to sell.
So since there would have to be individual changes made potentially, how does the security on that work then?
I'm sorry, it took me a moment to unmute. So there's two levels of communication. So it's the communication between, use General Motors as the example and virtual peaker. That's just linking the ability for virtual peaker to reach customers. The way that we're controlling customer devices is through the Wi-Fi. So the API integration is just for our ability to talk to a type of VM device. Our actual communication and where data is being used is over the customer's Wi-Fi. So it isn't. So we're not reaching personal identifiable information. We're not using anything but a customer's Wi-Fi connection to reach that device. So there are the API integration doesn't kind of have that space for the customer's concern. And there's very, very little points where a customer could be concerned. The biggest challenge that we process is that a customer's Wi-Fi has a blip and we have to reconnect through the customer's Wi-Fi.
So is that the case every time they upgrade their connectivity? So if they change their router? So is that the case every time they upgrade their connectivity? So if they change their router?
If they were to completely swap out their router, yeah, we'd have to reconnect. But usually devices are able to route and reconnect with Wi-Fi as long as everything's the same. But I was going to talk about it in a moment as part of our process. But part of what Tommy's role is to make sure he's combing through the list of all the devices we have in the program and checking their connectivity and reaching out to the customer if there's any connectivity issues. So he's constantly making sure that any devices with an issue are being reconnected.
Okay, I'd like to carry on. If there are questions that we don't get to in this session, invite everybody to. Okay, I'd like to carry on. If there are Zoe, can you mute, please? Thanks. If we don't get to them, you can email or call Brianna, and she's in constant contact with the next 0 people, and she can get answers to any questions we don't have time to answer today. So, okay, so we're ready to move on, I think.
All right, I can handle the customer applications portion of this. Hi everyone, my name is Tom Hargrave. I work primarily within our Connected Homes program. And to start off, I'm going to be talking about our pending homes applications. So one thing we have addressed in the past couple months are the customers in the pending tab. Those in pending are typically customers who have not completed the application process to add a device to their account. One thing we've done to combat this recently is to send emails to those customers twice monthly to notify them that they have not completed this process. Those who don't respond, we will typically assist them in adding their device to enroll it into their account. And if they don't reply, they're then removed from the program so that we can move on to active customers and we can move them to the front of the list. And that's not to say that those customers who are removed from the program are completely removed. We still retain them within our system so that if in the future they do decide they want to enroll a device or they end up seeing one of these emails in their inbox, we can very easily add them back to the program. So as a result of all of this, we've been able to much more easily prioritize active customers as our pending tab isn't as clogged up, and we can get everybody who's interested in the program enrolled in a timely manner. If nobody has any questions on that, we can move on to our data collection portion of the presentation. Okay. So in order for us to communicate with an EV, so in order for us to communicate with an EV during one of our peak events, the EV must have something called telematics enabled. Now, what telematics allows us to do is to wirelessly send commands to that vehicle to then manage the device's energy usage. When enrolling your Tesla into the Connected Homes program, you'll be asked to enable Tesla's telematics service, which is this screenshot you see on the left side of your screen. These checkboxes you see are manufacturer required or manufacturer specific requirements, and these are solely up to the manufacturer. What kind of data that they require, these are all up to the manufacturer. We don't have the ability to change this, as in this case it goes directly to Tesla, not MWIC. That being said, the majority of this data they require on their end is never provided to us. The only data that we do have visibility on is whether or not, 1, the vehicle is at home, 2, if it's charging, and 3, the state of the charge on that vehicle. So what we do have access to is very limited and solely used for the purpose of managing your vehicle's charging, and as a result, managing the Connected Homes program. And something that's come to light somewhat recently and has been a major point of contention for a lot of our customers is the third checkbox you see here on the left side of your screen, the vehicle commands. Like I said, this has been a major point of contention for some of our customers. And while it's not explicitly stated on their sign up page, you do not have to click on this box, meaning that you don't have to provide this kind of data to Tesla if you don't want to. And this checkbox specifically gives the manufacturer access to information and capabilities to your vehicle, like remote start, live camera access, unlocking your via, etc. So again, you do not have to agree to this specific requirement if you don't want to. And as we find out more of these specific requirements not being required, we will definitely let customers know. This is just the first one that we found in this specific instance. So that was a lot of information. Brief recap. Telematics are required to enroll your EV. Tesla requires a certain data set to sign up for telematics. However, we don't have access to a lot of that data. We receive the minimum data set required to run our program. If there are any questions about that, I'm happy to answer. I know I just threw a lot of information at everybody, so I'll give you a minute if there are any questions.
Don't see any, so I think we can carry on.
Great. We want to move along to the cost avoidance and program participation overview. I can go ahead and summarize that as well. Zoe, do you have that or do you want me to share?
I sent a note to Zoe to let her know that the internet connection seems to be a little bit down, and I might be messing her up because I'm muting her between.
No, Zoe just ran over to my computer. Her computer froze, so I'll go ahead and share my screen right now.
Okay. It's the internet quality out there in Western Massachusetts.
All right, can everybody see that? Yes, okay. All right, so we wanted to put together some information in this Excel sheet that you see, which is a comprehensive analysis of Hingham's devices currently enrolled in the Connected Homes program and how much money has been saved as a result of their enrollment. So right off the bat, you'll notice that there are two different types of columns here. One in gray with the month and one highlighted with a capacity label on it. So we're going to start off by going over the gray columns. That is the device's transmission. So what the transmission tells us is whether or not the device participated in the peak date of that particular month, meaning the peak date, meaning when the grid's load was at its highest for that month. So, for example, if the device did participate in this event, what we do is we take the assumed kW impact of that particular device and multiply that kW impact by the Schedule 9 rate for that year. And what Schedule 9 rates are, they're used to calculate transmission cost and are determined by the Participating Transmission Owners Administrative Committee and are calculated based on monthly regional network load values. So for an EV in this instance, if it did participate during that peak event for that month, we would take its kW impact for an EV that would be 7.7 kW, and we would multiply it by the Schedule 9 rate for that month or that year, which for 2024 would be 12.86. So for EVs, that's going to be $99.02. And moving on to the capacity costs, which you might notice are all blank. That's because capacity are filled out. Sorry, let me backtrack. Capacity is not filled out because the required calculations are dependent on prior year capacity. So given that Hingham is a newer program with lots of younger accounts, we don't have data going back far enough to fill out the capacity data. However, what we can take from this, you see a lot of the 99s here in the transmission columns. And what that tells us is that Hingham is one of the best positioned MLPs that we have, given that around 60% of your devices are either EVs or EV chargers, which carry about 10 times the savings of HVAC devices like hot water heaters or thermostats. So that's great for Hingham. And as I mentioned, in a year or so, once the devices start accruing these capacity costs, we're going to see a significant increase in the avoided costs here in Hingham. So it's only going to get better the longer the devices are enrolled, and Hingham is already in a great spot. So it should be very exciting to see what we have in the coming years. Again, I know I just threw a lot of information at you, so if there are any questions, please let me know. I'm happy to answer anything anyone has.
I don't see any, so.
Hi, this is Zoe. I had to jump in through cell phone. I apologize for my technical issue. One thing to emphasize with what Tommy's gone over is that, so we just finished up the backcast for 2024, but this transmission and capacity cost avoidance calculations will be provided to the utility in the quarterly reporting that we provide on Connected Homes moving forward. So this will be provided to you on a quarterly basis once we have all the data available for that quarter.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see any more discussion.
All right, I will go ahead and stop sharing. But again, if there are any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me in the future.
Okay, thanks very much for all of that information. It's giving me a good sense of what we can look forward to in the future in terms of what we'll be able to know about our savings and so forth. So I appreciate your coming on to do that. Does anybody else have any comments or questions before we move on and thank our MWEC employees for joining us today? Brianna.
I just have a quick comment. I just wanted to say thank you to the board for letting the Next Zero team come on and talk through the program. These are a lot of the bigger questions that we've gotten since we started it 7 months ago, and I'm glad we had the time to go through it.
Me too. Okay, well, seeing no further discussion, thank you very much. Not Zoe, not Devin, Zoe, Tommy. Appreciate your help, and I'm sure we'll be seeing you again as we learn more about the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe.
Thank you.
Tom.
Fantastic. Thank you all.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Next item on our agenda is the rate study discussion. Tom, over to you because I'm not sure what our discussion is.
So we just wanted to talk about, the timing for rate study. So we had talked about originally we would do one every 3 years. So it's 3 years, believe it or not, already. So this would be the year to start an additional rate study. My only concern with doing a rate study this year, or at least in the next 6 months, is we have a lot of work to do to integrate the Ware River water into the customer service and billing. So that is taken a priority. So if we were to do a rate study, it would have to be sometime after probably October of this year, if the board would like to do that. Or we could wait to the following year.
So let me think now. We began the process last time in October 4 years ago. So it would be 4 years if we started in October. Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know. Let me ask the board how you're feeling about that, about the timing proposed. Any thoughts?
Perhaps we should get an indication from the vendor. Have things changed substantially that we might want to pursue another rate study in October?
Well, I think the idea was that we wanted to do one every 3 years or approximately every 3 years, regardless. But I guess the question being asked us is, should we press ahead now or should we wait until the water company project is a little more under control and less demanding on our staff time?
To me, the question might be, what are the risks of us not doing one? Is the risk having a rate that's, if it's too low and that we're not meeting our revenue targets, or if it's too high and we're exceeding our 8% limit?
Which would be indicative if things have changed substantially. I mean, it seems to me like we're kind of just coming out of one that, yes, we started it 4 years ago, but it almost feels like we're just coming out of one. So given everything that's on the schedule, maybe it might be prudent to do a little due diligence and then decide whether or not we need to go and do a full bore study.
And I guess Joan can speak to this better, but we do have our budget file that we update on a monthly basis, and that gives us an indication of where we are, and it allows us to utilize the PCA to adjust things as needed. So it gives us a little bit of wiggle room to up or down. Joan, you could probably talk to that better. Maybe. Maybe not.
Sorry about that. It was fighting with me. I feel comfortable staying where we are just because we do have the flexibility to change the rates through the PCA or through the fuel adjustment as well. So I feel like the only thing a rate study is going to do is make sure that everything's in the correct bucket versus not control our revenue, whether we overcollect or undercollect.
So you think we're well situated now?
I do.
For the next couple of years. Okay.
I do. We can get by until,
Okay.
to be honest with you, I'd rather the revenue under the new rates, but it's a good 6 months under the rates that we just put into effect in January. I will be changing the PCA for February, but I want to get some time with our new rates. This is really the third year of our new rates because we started them so late.
Yeah, we
I
have
think-
only just finished completing the recommendations of the previous rate study, which is why it feels like it. We just finished one, but I'm sorry, Mike.
I have a concern about the PCA, and it's the volatility.
Mm.
How often we seem to be using it, not saying we shouldn't be using it, but I think we need to be more consistent on spreading it out over a longer period of time, if that's possible. I'm not sure, Joan, whether that is. I would rather see it at a low rate for a long period of time than at a high rate for a short period of time.
We can do that, but we have to address our changes as they come up because
How often do they come up? That's I guess that's the nitty-gritty when you dig down into the weeds.
Yeah, I think her internet froze.
Mm. Do you want to, Mike? Do you want to? Maybe you could have a conversation
Yeah.
with Joan offline.
Oh,
and
no,
then
absolutely. Yeah,
then if there's issues you want to
Yeah.
bring to the board for us to talk about, then we
Sure.
could do that. Does
sure.
that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Lauren.
Okay. So, Joe, we're going to just suggest that if Mike can give you a ring and go over this stuff, and if there is something that he feels we need to discuss as a board, he'll bring it to us. Does that make sense?
I'm sorry, you're going in and out on me.
Yeah, you're going in and out on us, so it's okay. So let me just, while we're on the rate study issue, let me just ask Tom, did you have an idea about what vendor you wanted to use?
I was good with the one we used prior. I mean, if the board would like to investigate some others, I can certainly look around and find out who else is available and
Well, sorry.
bring those to the board to take a look at.
So I have concerns about UFS. I have no concerns about their competence, their model, their results, their data. I really felt like they did a wonderful job with that, but I felt like their method of presenting their results to us resulted in a lot of wasted time for us, because their method was they would come to a meeting and show us a PowerPoint, then we would be expected to respond in real time to very complicated technical issues, which was not the best way for me. I know I'm just speaking strictly for myself. I actually expected that when we did a rate study, we would get a written report, which laid out what their conclusions are and what their recommendations were so that I could think about it before coming to the meeting. I often found that my questions, I finally managed they became concrete after the meeting was over. And I feel like that's one of the reasons it took us so long to get completed with the rate study process, because their method of presenting their results to us was not the best use of time for any of us. So I don't know if they would consider presenting their results in a format like that. I feel like I feel like what we have to look back on those discussions is the meetings themselves and some PowerPoints that don't explain themselves. You have to have the people there and listen to it. And for me, it would be much better to have the results on paper to go back and refer to in the future, even after we are finished with the rate study. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah. So would it be beneficial to have a meeting between Mark, myself, Joan, and you,
Sure.
just to talk about what you're looking for, knowing that we're not going to do a rate study for a little while, right? And maybe it's something that they can develop and do for us.
It's hard for
Otherwise,
me
I can
I
look
know,
for someone else too. I can,
well, I had confidence in most of what they did.
Yeah.
As far as I could understand it, but it was
Yeah.
going by a little fast. And I find it hard, I'm sure that they do rate studies for larger systems than ours. I find it hard to imagine that the results are presented in the exact same way for a large system. So I feel like they must have this capability.
okay.
I'd
So
also,
Maybe
would
it
you
will.
be willing to meet with them then? Or not?
Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I'll set that up in the next couple of months. Sometime that's convenient for you, Laura, and
Okay.
we'll get together.
I'd also be curious on, who the other 40 MLPs are using. I can't believe everyone's using the same vendor and
Yeah.
what feedback is from our peers.
I know some of the MWIC members actually use MWIC. I don't know how thorough that review is or what it involves, but I know MWIC does it for some people. I know in talking to Belmont, they used someone different. And I know some people use PLM, which is an engineering firm that does a lot of work for the Muni world. I think that's who Belmont used this last time. So there are others out there. And again, I can get a list of, who does that type of work and send it to the board, and we can go from there.
Thanks.
Okay, great. Any other thoughts from board staff or public on the rate study? Moving forward on that? Don't see any. Okay, so the next item on our agenda, I put on the agenda, board meeting recordings, and I wanted to take the temperature of the board on how you feel about having our meetings up on the internet. Back when I served on the select board, we were always encouraging boards to record their meetings and make them available. It seems like a completely different world then than it was now. I am becoming anxious about having so much of my face, voice, etc. on the internet, and just as a security matter for not just myself, but everybody who's appearing on the screen here today. And so I wanted to ask the board how you feel about it, and also all of you folks who are often on these meetings. It crossed my mind that one possible alternative would, well, first of all, the meeting minutes are the legal record of the meeting. So that's putting those up on the web, that satisfies legal requirements. Perhaps we could keep the recordings in an archive, and people could make a request to see a particular meeting, and then you could send somebody a link to that one meeting, as opposed to having it readily available for AI to scoop up and put into its brain on a regular basis. So I don't know. I'm just asking the board, how do you feel about it?
I would prefer that, I think.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think maybe an account access, if somebody got a username and a password from HOP and they could access the archives.
Oh, that's an interesting idea. Yeah.
That might be another way to
Sounds
do it.
more complicated though. I don't know.
But it could be automated. You could sign up for an account and you could be validated, etc., etc. It's work in setting up, but once IT sets it up, it should be set it and forget it. So there is an archive.
Okay, well, maybe we ask the staff to think about what you think is the easiest way to manage such a meeting archive and come up with a suggestion. Brianna,
Brianna had some feedback, or
you are muted.
If so we have all the videos on YouTube right now. I can switch them to private and then put it on our website to say, if you'd like a copy, our meetings are recorded. If you'd like a copy, please. I could tell them to email the Lightboard email or just email info@HMLP, and we can have an access code here that it could be the same for all videos. Like it's something simple, but they have to email us, ask for it, and we send them the passcode or the link.
Well, I don't have a complaint about people accessing it. It's the non-people that I'm concerned about. So, yes, I'm pretty sure it's not. Susan, is it you with your hand up? You are muted. Please give us your name and your address, please, and unmute.
Yeah, you're
You are-
muted.
Okay.
There you go.
Susan Wetzel, 239 High Street. My only question is, what are the other boards across the town doing? Like, I mean, have
Some
been-
boards,
yeah,
like the advisory committee doesn't record its meetings at all. So it goes, I would say we're amongst the most available right now, but it's all over the map.
okay. So
What-
has the
what
town as a
committees do.
whole discussed this, what they're going to do? And would the board think it would be advisable to, not do this in a silo, but talk with so that basically what I'm saying is it's confusing for the public. I can get it here, but I can't get it there. I've always
Yeah.
gotten it here. So in terms of customer service, I think it would be very confusing to the public. And if the town as a whole makes a decision, I think one of my concerns about the town is that these individual boards in the town work like little silos. And so if you don't go to this meeting or you don't go to that meeting or you don't hear that, I mean, as the town has gotten more and more complex over the years, there just doesn't seem to be any big person driving the boat. So everybody's doing their own thing. And this is just another example of what does the public do?
Possibly times have changed and I don't know,
Oh, yeah.
but I know that when I served on the select board, we worked really hard to convince boards to record their meetings and make them available without very much success.
Well, thank you for your effort.
So I'm doubtful things have changed very much. And I think if we wait for the town to take a position as a whole, we'll be waiting a long time. That's just based on my personal experience. I don't know. So anyway, how about that is to say, Susan, I'm very sensitive to your concerns because I was too. How about I'll come back with a proposed policy based on our discussion today at another meeting. Sound okay?
Sure.
Brianna.
I can also share that on our YouTube where we share the videos, we probably average about 20 views on a video, give or take. I don't know if that's helpful.
Wow, that's more than I
Per
imagined.
meeting?
Yes.
That's, that's the other side of it, which is we're going to inconvenience those 20 people, as Susan points out. And that's the downside. I don't like making it more difficult for people. On the other hand, I'd like to encourage people to give the minutes a try because you can read the minutes much faster than you can watch the video, and the minutes are really good. You really, get a great feeling for how the meeting goes from the minutes. But so I'm all about minutes these days. But anyway, let's we'll just come up with an idea that works for the staff and bring it back to the board. Yes, Sue.
Just one question about that. The public, I just speaking for myself, when the public watches that, we know what you're saying. And having 6 years of doing medical management meeting minutes, I understand what goes into doing minutes. You miss a lot if you don't watch the video. I think that's why the public is watching. That's all. And I don't really know who does the minutes, and nor would anyone in the public really know how the minutes are done, who's editing the minutes, what comments are being left out, So I appreciate the fact that it is recorded so we can actually see the people that have committed so much time to the town and hear it from their mouth. So that's speaking for the public.
Okay, that's great feedback. Thanks. Okay, so we'll think about it and bring it back again. We won't make a decision today. We'll just perhaps reconsider. We thought about it for a little bit. Thanks very much. I also put the next item on the agenda. The idea of having an onboarding manual for new commissioners. This came up for me because I thought I had a copy of Tom's contract, of course, when I found out that I didn't. And so I think it would be a good idea to have a policy to have such an item for new members of the board. And I made a potential list of things that could be in it. So my suggestions are all the board policies, which are the ones that are listed on the policy page, an organization chart, general manager's current contract with amendments, attorney general's handbook on the open meeting law, and secretary of state's guide to the public records law. So that's my suggestion. What does the board think about this idea? And
I like those. I might only add a link to conflict of interest material that we're asked to review and know.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
That's an
Okay.
annual Zoom training, I think.
Yeah, and that's as the board members come on, I have to add them to, the general manager adds them to the that training, which is managed by the state. So you get those emails from the state when it's due.
mhm.
It's the whole thing is due once every 2 years, and then once every other year you do a acknowledgement of it.
Okay, how about if people get other ideas about what should go in this, just shoot Tom an email, and I will, if the board thinks this is a good idea, I'll bring it back as a policy to talk about one more time. And we can put something in it like, and any other documents that the general manager or board sees as pertinent at any one time should be part of it. So put in some flexibility.
I think Deirdre Lawrence has a something for board's responsibility type thing that I could probably send to you. I'll ask her to send it to me. I think she does have something to that effect.
Now AI is going to pick up how badly I type. Okay. It's good. All right, I will bring it back for discussion at another meeting then. And if people have other ideas, just shoot them over. Any other comments or questions from staff or public or board? Okay, on to approving meeting minutes. December 17th, we did not look at our last meeting because we didn't have enough time to review them. Are you guys ready to approve those minutes? Okay. Brianna.
Never mind, sorry.
Okay. Happy to never mind.
I had a couple of
Okay.
comments. There was one part where I guess you were titled Mrs. So that's inconsistent a couple of times, not a big one.
You know which
I
which
think
one
that was
in?
the earlier ones.
Okay.
And there was one section where we were talking about rate increases, and I looked at it a couple of times. HMLP needs to keep up with inflation so that we can meet the resilience requirements, so we are prepared for the future. I didn't really think resilience requirement was
Was
the
that in
right
the conversation with, was that in the conversation with
I think it was part of Laura's PowerPoint presentation. It probably filtered in. I think it's just worth looking at.
Okay. But that was in the 12-17 minutes
Yeah.
also?
Correct, Tom.
Yeah, that sounds like it was from the presentation, but I don't know. Do you know where it is, Mike?
I can find it, Laura. I'll find it.
Okay.
To take care of it.
Okay.
The part of the customer charge.
Okay.
changing the customer charge that summary.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it, so we'll let Tom find it.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments from the board on that set of minutes? Brianna?
I do have something for the more recent minutes, the January 14th ones. At
Okay,
the-
let's do
Okay.
let's dispose of this one and then
Sorry, yeah,
move
okay.
on. Okay. Okay, I guess we didn't specify how we wanted to change that set of minutes. I just don't know where it was, Mike. Should we just hold that and come back with a change at the next meeting?
It was the example of the 750 kilowatt hour customer.
Okay, let me go there. December 17th, 770.
750, and then
What page of the minutes are we on? Okay, comparing electric rates, that's where we are. I just don't see it, Mike. I don't see what you're referencing.
when you search for resilience.
Okay.
Sorry, that's how I found it again.
Uh,
I think there's 2 occurrences of resilience,
um,
and this would be the second one.
okay, I think we should do this offline.
Okay.
I'll take a look at it offline. and
I'll
we'll
look
bring
for it
back.
too. I'll look for
Okay.
resilience.
Because don't know what we were saying, but we need to figure that out. Okay, so we'll hold that set to next meeting. Meeting minutes of January 14th. Brianna, you had some
Yes, sorry.
comments.
The beginning of the second page where it says HMLP Sustainability Plan, I was just wondering if we could change it from to Hingham Municipal Lighting Plan is considering partnering with the Spiegler Group, not is partnering, because at that point,
Yes,
it hadn't.
right. Okay. Yeah, right. It's in the first line. Yep, that makes sense. Decision made. Okay, and I had just one tiny little change in the very last paragraph. The second sentence, it says Ms. Burns motioned to forward the article. It should be moved to forward the article. Just something tiny. Any other comments or changes to the January 14th minute? Okay, seeing nothing, I'll entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes for January 14th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, Tyler?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Laura? Aye. Thanks.
Once again,
Okay.
very thorough minutes.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, we're down to updates. Transmission line project.
Transmission line, we haven't heard back from the siting board as of this point. We do have a meeting with Mayor Headland on Thursday afternoon, just to give him a briefing. I think I mentioned that we did have a briefing with Senator
Senator O'Connor.
Joe Machino, and Murphy from Weymouth. So we've had meetings with each of those individually just to give them a briefing on the project. And we'll be going to the mayor on Thursday, with the hope of having some additional meetings with the city councilors in Weymouth after that.
Am I right that what we're waiting for from the Energy Facilities Siting Board is a schedule for when the public discussion will begin?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So
You're just giving them a
have to
heads up on those meetings, Tom?
Yeah, just they know that Weymouth knows that they will be coming. We've had discussions with them, but we just wanted to get in with the mayor, just to give him a, an update on the project, where we are, that type of thing, just in case he gets questions from the citizens in Weymouth.
Okay, any other questions or comments about the transmission line project?
I guess
Okay, yeah,
the only reason we haven't done it in Weymouth, I mean, in Hingham, is, I felt that we did that with that open meeting in December. So if you feel there's a need to do it again in Hingham, we can absolutely do that too.
do you mean about the rate hike information session?
Yeah, during that session, we did talk about the transmission, gave an update on the transmission project.
Okay, Sue.
Hi, yes, just in response, Susan Wetzel, 239 High Street, Hingham. I was with a group of senior citizens today. There probably was maybe 50 women there. And the discussion at that time came up about the senior center that they are wanting to have built for $34 million there at the Bear Cove Park. And so the question came up, well, will that be coming to the town at the same time the $110 million power line project is coming up? And those senior citizen women had no idea what I was talking about. They thought I was like, none of them had heard about the power line and the cost that will be coming, I think, as you said, as a bond issue before the town. Am I correct? And so seniors don't know what's going on in this town. So I don't like to speak for all of them, but that was a lot of women. And I would say maybe one or two, maybe three of us knew what was going on. So I told them that, I had spoken with you, Tom, and you've got to, you can't hit senior citizens with this sort of thing. They need to know and be educated. So if you say you didn't think you needed to do any more education, I'm just giving you a heads up about that. That's all.
If there's a group or a committee or a social crowd that would like to learn more about it, I'd be happy to come and speak anytime. So just let me know. Tell people about the project. That's one way.
Well,
so I'm sorry.
No, I thank you for the offer.
So municipal solar, there was some change. There was some activity on that today. We had proposed that the town ask town meeting for funds to review the condition of roofs, to evaluate the possibility for putting solar arrays on those roofs. And the town had indicated that the way that they would like to do that is via a third-party project, so that the town need not front any money. And so from that conversation until today, they did some research and they found what other municipal light plants have found, which is that because what we pay for electricity as light plants, as a municipal light plant, is so low, it is not necessarily very appealing to a third-party developer to do a project in a municipal light plant town when they could go next door and do it in Weymouth and get paid twice as much by National Grid for the same photons. The town originally was considering, in order to meet their 2040 net zero goal, perhaps adding some money to the contract to make it more valuable to the developer. But the gap between what we pay for electricity and what other people pay for electricity, the gap between that and what they need to make it pencil out is too large. And so they have concluded, finally, that they agree with the findings of the Solar Task Force that there is much more advantage to taxpayers, to the town, to own the arrays. Because of course, if the town owns the arrays, then you can project exactly how much savings they will have on their electricity costs over the course of the life of the arrays. And it should be very appealing, I think, to taxpayers. So what they are proposing now is that they will first ask some solar developers to help them look at roofs and verify the Solar Task Force's findings on what the orientation of the various roofs are and how much yield there would be, and then go to the state for a meta grant, which is a state grant that grant program that provides technical assistance for energy projects in towns, and get a meta grant to do the study of the roofs that we were suggesting we asked town meeting for the funds for. And of course, the upside of that is it's much better for us not to pay for that study if we can get a grant for it. The downside is we don't know for sure that we would get that grant, but it definitely falls right in the bailiwick of this program. This is what they do. Yeah, I think it would be an attractive program. The assistant town administrator I was speaking to thought so. So the idea would be to get a meta grant to do the study of the roofs and then prepare to go to town meeting in 2026 with a proposal to fund some solar arrays on roofs. And I feel like since the select board has high on its list projects that will generate revenue, it is time for them to recognize that these are revenue generating projects and it's just what they're looking for. But it's going to, it's once again, it's going to take about a year to get to the point of being able to fund one of these projects that way. But I do feel encouraged that I feel like it is definitely much more of a value proposition for the taxpayers, for the town to own it and get all the savings from the electricity. And so I'm pleased that it seems like the town administration has reached that conclusion as well. So that's where that stands. I don't know if there are any questions or comments.
Do we have an idea of how much this study is going to cost?
No, they asked me that question and I said, I do. How would I know what it's going to cost to study roofs? But I think they are hoping to get some feeling. They have some developers who have volunteered to help them look at our roofs and verify the work that we've already done on their viability. And he thought quite possibly they could get, some sense of that from working with those volunteer developers.
Because some of those roofs are, quote unquote, solar ready already.
Right. Well, no such study is required on the public safety building or Foster or the new building
Middle
at the country
school.
club. Well, middle school is already aging out. I know here's a good way to feel old. The middle school is like halfway if the middle school is 10 years old. So when do we need to replace that roof? Is it sooner than 20 years from now? Maybe. So, but the other place that doesn't need such a study is the landfill, which we would still like to put a project on and would possibly be more attractive it's too small to attract a developer, we found, but if we packaged it with the public safety and the Foster, it might be attractive enough to include in that group of projects that people might bid on. Sue.
Maybe we could just fund it. Could we fund it through HMLP?
Well, where will you get the money? The reason that the Solar Task Force has not proposed that is because all of our depreciation, it's all dedicated to the transmission project, the funds that we're accumulating in the depreciation fund, and that this board has already kind of set aside the revenue from the RECs to paying for the meter changeover. So we're socking it away for that purpose. So I'm not sure where the funds would come from, but if you have an idea, let us know. Yeah, please think. Sue.
I'm looking to you for leadership and guidance in this question, but I was reading in the Financial Times online today that investors think that maybe another $300 billion worth of future federal funding for green energy infrastructure is will no longer be is now frozen. So with the Trump's executive order, how is the board, and Tom, you specifically, thinking about the future funding since the feds have shut down so much of the green energy agenda? And Laura, I think you mentioned the was it net zero by 2040 in the town? So how has the town as a whole, and you as our board, who are people that are kind of in charge and along with Tom, how are you thinking about what's this EO executive order is going to mean for our town and all of the projects that you have discussed and I've been listening to, and where will the funding come from?
Well, most of the federal funds come through the state. So the way that would be affected would be various state programs would no longer have funding
Right.
for whatever it is. But this. I
Are
don't
we a
think get any-
sanctuary state too?
Oh, I have no idea.
I don't know. I know Boston's a sanctuary. I just, you're hearing about so much federal funding that's in jeopardy. I am,
But we don't actually get
I'm a
it.
resident of Massachusetts. I'm certainly concerned.
We don't get any federal funding here. That we did actually briefly pursue some federal funding for our transmission project by talking to some people who were experts in, the Washington people who know how to get big grants, and we were told that just too small. Sorry. It was too small. We can't have any. So fortunately, we're not depending on those federal funds to build.
But
our
you do get
transmission
it from the
project.
state, correct?
So we don't get any,
State
I mean,
funding.
like, for example, this meta grant that the town wants to get, that's a state
Yeah.
program, but that's been in existence for many years. I don't think it's based on federal funding. I'm not aware that Tom.
Yeah,
John, we don't
we
get
have
any
had-
federal money for anything.
Yeah, we haven't had federal money for anything. We have had state money for the car charges and things like that were installed.
And that kind of thing could easily be impacted. I
Right,
think.
but as of the last year anyway, we haven't had any state funding or federal funding.
We don't know.
So the answer is you don't know, my husband says. Is that true?
Well, we're not relying on any federal funds, so I don't think it's going to have any impact on us, but we're just one small piece of the pie.
Thank you.
So the capital projects, Tom?
So the 25 capital, the last one in 24 is completed. Circuit 9, we've completed that project at the beginning of this year. We haven't started any of the capital projects for 2025. The biggest one being the insulator replacement. We are still waiting for the MBTA on that project. So given we've multiple emails to them and no real updates.
Is there anybody we can call?
We've tried. All we've been told is that this is a busy time for them, and they're doing their best they can. But given that hasn't happened as of yet, I'm thinking that we're going to have to push that project off until the fall of this year. We'd hope to get that done in the spring, but
what are the risks of pushing that project off again?
Well, again, we had one problem with the insulators. We did an inspection. Some of the insulators do have some aging and cracking in them, but we haven't had any additional failures, and that's almost 2 years now.
Potentially a reliability issue.
It's definitely, it's a potential reliability issue. But,
which could affect one of the primary feeders into the town.
Correct, yep.
I think we need to get somebody in the policy side involved in finding out and determining why this is taking so long.
Yeah.
It's a permit we're asking for, correct?
It's a permit, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a license to get on the tracks. So they give us a license with the requirements that we have to meet.
This is the kind of thing that Senator O'Connor or Rep. Moschino would jump on for you if you just tell them this is what they're there for. They will come down on the MBTA and get a response for you.
I can reach out to Joan.
They're both really good at it.
Yeah.
I think we need to pull some of those strings if we can. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a great idea, Mike.
We can do that.
Thanks.
Okay, that's the end of our updates, and we're now at the.
Brianna.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you. Go ahead.
I'm so sorry. I do have a very short thing. The municipal heat pump forum date has been set as March 22nd. It's a Saturday. Hingham Light is hosting that event. It'll be taking place at the House of Prayer Lutheran Church along the South Hingham on Main Street from noon to 3 p.m. So I wanted to mention that because our next meeting is much, much closer to the event, and I wanted to make sure the board was aware that we're putting that on.
Great, thanks.
Great.
And we are doing a food drive right now for Valentine's Day. So that was in the bills, the flyers. So we do have quite a bit of canned goods and things in the front lobby right now. So it's going pretty
Great.
well.
That's great news.
Is there additional charge to have print on both sides of the flyers?
There is, yes, yeah. To have a two-sided
So
flyer.
you better have something to say. Print on both sides.
I think we do.
Yeah, okay. Okay, if that's it for the updates, then we're down to the item that we added today, and that was the request from Energy New England. The First Light, they have the coming up, the 401 water quality certification for First Light's Turner Falls hydroelectric and the Northfield Mountain Pump Storage Project. And Tom reminds us that HMLP gets approximately 8% of our energy from First Light. And we have a request from Energy New England, which is the entity through whom we get the contract with First Light, to support their request for the approval of the water quality certification for First Light Turner's Falls Hydroelectric and the Northfield Mountain Pump Storage Projects. So I don't know. Yeah.
So I got a question. So we get 8% of our power from First Light. What percentage of that comes from the hydro part? It's all hydro, right? It's one pumped storage hydro plus a run of river hydro as well? Or is it just all pumped? Or what's the split in that 8%?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you, Michael. I'd have to find out from Ken Stampler how much, if there is run of river. I'm not sure if there is or not on that.
I'm trying to get an idea of what the impact would be if this permit's not renewed and we lose X percentage of that 8%.
I can get that answer for you, probably tomorrow or the next day.
Okay.
So my thought about it was that I went to kind of look at the issues and the discussions around the water quality certification permit, and I became aware that some of the neighbors of the pump storage project opposed the approval of the water quality certification because of the environmental damage that's done by pumping the river upstream along with all the fish and the banks of the rivers and sending it gushing down again. And another one of their points was that it's sold as renewable energy, but in fact they use fossil fuels to pump the water up the hill. And so there's perhaps some element of greenwashing going on there. I don't know. But where I landed with it was I realized that I don't actually know enough about the project, about the plant. I don't know enough about the opposition really to have an opinion. We have a responsibility to ratepayers to protect that 8% of our power supply that we rely on. But on the other hand, there is other power out there that could be purchased. And besides, most of our contracts are very long term. So Tom, I don't know how long our contract with them is, but it's not, it's not like we're going to say, we dislike this so much, we're going to cancel our contract. We're not. We have a contract, and
it was renewed not that long ago.
Yeah. So my feeling about it is, I personally would not favor either opposing or supporting the approval of the water quality certificate, because I just don't know enough to have an opinion or make an informed decision about it. That's just me. So I'll just ask the other members of the board what you think.
I feel similarly. I don't know much about the situation. I understand the technologies involved, but about the specific situation, I don't know.
So, Mike, did you want to? I got the impression that perhaps you would like to propose that we support it.
I've looked at both sides, not in depth, but I've looked at it. I think from our fiduciary responsibility to the ratepayers of Hingham, we have an obligation to ensure that we are working as diligently as we can to decarbonizing our power sources. And clearly that 8% is a large part of where we're at now. And I would defend that we want to preserve that 8%. I don't want to risk losing it. That said, I think the State Department of Environmental Protection has their own fiduciary responsibility to ensure that the ecosystems of the Connecticut River are protected. And if there are,
hi, everybody.
If there are things that can be done and built into the permitting process to improve the protection of the wildlife habitat, then I think this is a time that would be in front of the various stakeholders, and it wouldn't be our decision to decide yea or nay on renewing the permit. But at this time, I think we should support what the letters that E&E have drafted. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't.
Okay, do you want, is that a motion? To sign the letter provided by you?
Yeah, I would make a motion to support the letter. I don't think
Okay.
it could do any harm.
Okay, is there a second?
I haven't had a chance to review the letter.
Sadly,
when is it due?
The public comment period closes on February 24th, so we're not having a meeting before then. And I think, I mean, I have read the letter, and what I know is that I don't have enough information to support or oppose this. So that's why I don't support signing the letter.
I mean,
it's up to you, Tyler.
Why did E&E, Tom, perhaps you can allude to why do you think E&E put forward that letter to the various stakeholders of the First Light Hydro project?
Yeah, again, I think for the same reasons you alluded to, is, you know, it's a project that we have you know, a PPA with them. It's considered renewable, I guess, whether that's questioned or not.
The permit's been renewed for 50 years, did I see? Or maybe that was something on the Connecticut River.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that, but E&E asked for support, given that we are part of the project, and we get an 8% from them. So,
do we know if other MLPs that are maybe in for another 8%, have they supported it, or has there been any discussion? It's happening very quickly.
Yeah, there hasn't been any discussion, and I haven't seen anyone, you know, reply to all. I replied to them originally that we would not support it, but that doesn't mean I can't go back now and say we will.
I mean, maybe we should have a conference call with E&E and see just where we're at, what's at stake, because I think what I'm hearing from all of the board members is that we don't feel that we're particularly well informed here.
Well, for me, neither opposing nor supporting is an adequate response to not having enough information. I don't think that whether there's a letter from us in the DPU's mailbox is going to make any difference whatsoever in whether this project is approved. So I'm not
Yeah.
feeling a lot of pressure
Right,
around
understood.
around making a decision on it, I have to say.
Yeah,
I
I
would be
don't
in
think that
agreement to
the,
this.
I think that I see no reason not to support the Mass DEP as they're the one issuing the permit. So I'm okay to second the motion today. I don't see why we would go against the Mass DEP. That's all. It's not our
Okay.
issue it's not our job to fight that or to that process. And I don't want to fight that process through not supporting the letter.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion? So all in favor of the motion to respond positively to E&E's request for support for the water quality certificate approval, say aye. Mike?
Aye.
Tyler?
Aye.
Laura? Nay. The motion's passed. Thanks very much. And now we are, I will entertain a motion to enter executive session, not to return to public session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, for the purpose of conducting a strategy session in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. Can someone make that motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I heard a motion in a second. So all in favor, Tyler?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Laura? Aye. Thanks very much for being here, everybody.